Now I think I'm live. It says that I'm live, so I'm very glad that I'm here. I hope that you are able to hear me. If you can, just give me a thumbs up or anything. Just say anything, just so I know that you're able to actually hear me. Because I just want to make sure that this is working since this is my first Substack Live. So I could hear, yes. I know there are a few of you here. Just let me know if you can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a message, just letting you know where the questions are that I'm talking about. So, I'd like to thank you for coming, for those of you who are here live and for those of you who are joining later on. What I'm doing is I'm going to talk about an upcoming 2026 contemplative walking retreat that I'll be leading along a path of the Camino de Santiago de Compostela, the traditional Camino that goes across Spain. I'll be leading it up further in France, not the French way. That's actually in Spain, believe it or not. But in France, there are four traditional paths. The oldest one of these, or likely the oldest one, which dates back to 951, that we have historical records for, is the path from Le Puy-en-Velay. And I will be leading a 7-day contemplative walking retreat starting in Le Puy-en-Velay, and we will end in Conques. They're both very small areas in France. Le Puy-en-Velay has a great history, and Conques is what's considered in France a mot plus beau village, one of the most beautiful villages, and I believe it is the most beautiful village in France. And I'll be sharing some pictures eventually about that. But what I did is I asked some of my friends, some of my colleagues, some people that I know and work with and communicate with on Substack. Look, I'm going to be talking about this retreat. This is my first Substack Live. I hope it's going well. And do you have any questions? Right? Because I could come up with my own questions, but y- y- we've all been there where people come up with Q&A and they come up with the questions that they hope people will think or that they imagine that people will think. I really wanted to have real questions that people think. So what I did, and I shared this in the chat here, that's where what I did is I gathered the questions together in one or two of the communities that I shared them with here on Substack. I gathered those together and I put them in. I basically said, what questions do you have about this? That way it helps to give me a little bit of a framing for what I wanted to talk about today. So in the link, I have the questions, the one that I just shared. I have the questions that I'm going to talk about, and then I'll certainly take any questions that any of you have here. And likewise, if you're watching this on the replay, please just put the questions on the bottom of the recording, and I'll be happy to answer them. So, a couple of things. First of all, what is this all about, right? What is this contemplative walking? Often when we think about retreats, okay, we think about a time where we go off to a beautiful location and we sit around quietly. We might have a little nature stroll and we have some workshops and things like that. And that's not what this is. This is a contemplative walking retreat, meaning that we're going to be doing primarily walking each day. And there's going to be a small group of people. Only 4 people will be coming on this retreat with me because I want it to be small and intimate, but also I wanted to be able to encourage silence, to encourage contemplation. We all live in a very difficult world, right? There are a lot of challenges and lots of talking, lots of arguing, and often we just need some time away. We just need some time away to take a breath, recenter ourselves. And that's kind of what this is, but it's a little bit more because we're doing this over 7 days. We're going to be walking over 7 days. And rather than just calling this a walking retreat or a mindfulness retreat, because it's not mindfulness, it's contemplative. It's contemplative walking. And let me talk a little bit about what contemplative walking is. Contemplative walking is where we internally want to quiet ourselves, quiet those noises, but we do that because we want to communicate with something that's out there, something that's greater than us, something that is more spiritual or connected and we have kinship with. So in this retreat, I am hoping to create a space and hold a space for contemplative walking in what I believe is the most spectacular landscape you're going to find. Now, I've walked this path before. I've walked the entire path in France before. Okay, it's a 4-week path altogether. We're doing 1 week of it, starting at the beginning of it, which is actually historically the oldest part. But it goes across just a beautiful area of rural France, across what's referred to as the Aubrac Plateau. There will be little bodies of water, little rivers. There will be cows. There will be donkeys. There might be sheep. There will be pigs. There will be all kinds of different farm or domesticated animals, along with a bunch of more natural animals. We'll likely come across squirrels and birds of all kinds, along with beautiful trees and flowers and whatnot along the path. In other words, it's just inviting us to be a little quiet and to be able to really I'm just fixing that my video just got a little dark, to be quiet and to really allow ourselves some internal silence so then we could connect with the natural world around us. Now, rather than just going off someplace and doing that for a week, it actually helps if you have a destination. So the destination along the section of the Camino that we're going to be doing is the village of Conch. That way we know we're making progress. So we will be making progress deepening into ourselves, engaging with kinship and connection with the natural world while we are physically walking towards our destination. Now, in pilgrimage, often we think about the destination as being what's important, right? We want to get there. However, in contemporary pilgrimage, we want to get where we're going, but that's not where the magic happens. That's not where the connection happens. That's not where the spiritual aha moments happen. They happen along the way or afterwards when we're processing the experience. So for us, as I'm looking at just my questions that I had there, what makes contemplative walking different? We're walking ideally in silence so we could be open to the wonders of the natural world. This is very different from mindful walking. Mindful walking, where we will focus on our internal selves. We'll focus on our foot touching the ground. We'll focus on the ground holding us up. Mindful walking is very internal, wonderful for stress relief. It's not contemplation. Contemplative walking involves us doing that, but for the explicit purpose of silencing ourselves so that we may reach out and listen to what the wonders of the natural world, sacred creation, actually wants to communicate with us. It's just like when we're friends. If we talk all the time and we're not going to have friends too much longer. In the natural world, we are often so busy in what we're doing that we don't have the time to really focus on listening. What are we learning from listening through the wind going through a tree? From listening to the water on a little brook that we walk over? If we are just walking along, right, with walking sticks, because that's what I always use, we're just walking along, we might not pick up on that because we're talking to pilgrims around us. We're talking to other people. We're in our minds. Contemplative walking encourages us to try to settle that at times so we could receive and then we could reflect and live in with that. That's what contemplative walking is all about. Now, I've walked along the Camino 5 times. This is going to be, I'm doing it myself personally early next summer. And then the group which I'm looking to lead, which I'm inviting all of you to consider, will be at September. By the time that happens, I would have walked the Camino 7 times. Now, in those times, the more that I've done it, the more that I find I need to be silent. I need to walk along and be quiet so I could get out of my head and listen to the natural world. Now, that doesn't mean that I ignore people around me. I say hello, right? I sit down and talk over dinner. But our contemplative walking retreat, which will certainly allow that, who am I to stop you from doing what you need to do or want to do? But I also want to say that it's okay not to do that. It's okay to be quiet. It's okay to be introspective and to journal and to think and to process and to connect with the world around us. That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to talk just because somebody else is in front of you. So that's what we'll be looking at with this retreat. Now, you could practice this at home right now. As soon as we're finished with this, you could go outside, spend some, walk until a tree catches your eye, maybe a rock formation, and stop and just sit and listen. We could do that. We could do that. Of course, I encourage people to do that. I write about that all the time. But this is different. This is an actual immersive experience for that time away and into the natural world while we're walking along this path that's been walked since at least 951. So we're talking a path that's been walked over 1,000 years. We're going to be walking. We're going to be sharing in the energies of that path along with listening to the world around us. You'd be surprised at what we're going to learn in the process. Each of us individually. We will not be walking as a group. Now, some people may want to walk together as a group. That's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I will not be expecting it. I will be there. I will be walking myself. I will be there to offer any kind of support you need, especially the support to embrace silence in a world that often doesn't understand that or doesn't allow that. It doesn't encourage that. So, this retreat, as I mentioned, we're going to be walking between 10 and 15 miles a day, 12 and 15 miles a day. We have one day that's a little under 10. So we're going to be walking that. Now, what does that actually look like? That actually looks like, think about a day of maybe 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 hours walking, depending on your speed. We don't have to walk together. As a matter of fact, in rural France, when they open the hotels or they open the inns or the B&Bs where we're going to be staying, those aren't even open all day long. So even if we get there early, you can't check in. You can't do any of that. So the day will start with breakfast. Each day we're going to have breakfast where we stay. I will offer a prompt or two. I will hand out a map. We will have electronic communication, probably a WhatsApp group also, just in case. So if people want to communicate, we can. We're not saying communication's bad. We're saying it's not expected because you won't travel halfway across the world to do the same thing you could do at home. So we'll have the prompt and then we'll start walking. We'll have our luggage, which will be a bag. I'll have logistics for all of this and sizes and weights. I'll have all of that shared. We'll have that. It will be transported for us from one location to the next. So when we get where we're going at the end of the day, it'll be there. Or it'll be there shortly after. There's a service that's going to be taking care of all of this. We're each going to have some sort of a small bag, a small backpack, where we have we might have a passport, we might have water, maybe a foot care in case we need something, maybe a journal, those sorts of things. We don't need the heavy stuff. That will be going for us. So then we'll walk. Now, we'll walk. Most of the time, we'll be able to stop someplace for lunch if you want. I often don't stop for lunch. Personally, I often get whatever I need and I just keep on walking until I get tired and then I stop. And then I might eat something, as opposed to something that's scheduled. Now, this is very rural. The path is very well marked. Very well marked. There will be other people walking, right? So this is not isolated and alone to be scared. No, it's not that at all. There will be other people. It might take 10 or 15 minutes for somebody else to come walking along the path, but there will be other people walking along the path. So we'll take a break for lunch. You could do this individually, do it as a small group, whatever you want, no pressure. And then we'll continue walking until we get to our location. Once again, it'll be 12 to 15 miles a day, give or take. The last time that I did a walk, I was on vacation in France maybe a month and a half ago. I did an 11-mile walk. It was actually 11 and a half miles. The only break I took was to find a bathroom. That was the only break I took. I took another 5-minute break just to take off my backpack, get out my water, take the drink of it, refill it, put it back in, and I kept on walking. So this can very well be done. And I will also give some guidance on how to physically prepare for this, including what to physically wear. Not that you have to wear the same thing, but for example, the shirt I'm wearing right now, this has been on the Camino with me. I have walked in this. I always wear long sleeve. Even though we're going to be going at the beginning of September where it's still hot, Long sleeves means that this is a sun shirt, so it keeps the sun off of my skin, and it actually keeps me rather cool, to believe it or not. But all of that will be on a packing list I'll provide. And then, for any of you who have ever done a Camino trip, you know that often they'll do that, and then they send you everything, and then you just arrive. Hopefully, you would have looked at all of that. What I'm going to be doing, because I want to try to let go of as many of the stressors, as many of the challenges as possible, what I'll be doing is I will be having a couple of preparatory invitations. Do you want to get together and let's talk? Let's spend half an hour over Zoom and let's talk about X, Y, and Z so we could prepare. So I will be sharing exactly what I'm doing to prepare, exactly what I'll be wearing. We'll be talking about that for people who have done long distance hikes like this. You probably have all kinds of things to share also. For some of you who are very set on what you want to do, that's wonderful. Some people may be doing this for the first time, and it can be a little intimidating. So I want to try to hold us not only once we start, but hold space for us to feel confident and believe that we could actually do this as we're going along. So I talked about that. At the end of the day, we're going to be all together 7 days walking, 8 nights, right? A night on either side. So 8 nights. There will be 6 dinners included, right? So we're going to be eating together generally at the location. Many of these are very rural. That is the option. So dinners are all arranged for you. There are two where they're not. One, it's because we're going to be in a village where there are actually several restaurants. Now, if you are nervous about preparing for that, that's fine. I will still be going for dinner and I will make the invitation for anybody who wants to join me. But once again, I don't want to give any pressure. If you want your own time, if you want to, go and, make your own sandwich or go and have your own dinner by yourself, you'll be perfectly able to do that. So I will be there to help if you actually want to still have dinner together. Now, the second time where dinner is not included, it's because we're in a village that actually has a 2-star Michelin restaurant. Actually, 2-star Michelin restaurant. It's worth going out of the way for. Now, some people might really want to do that, so I don't have dinner scheduled that night because I want people to have the freedom to do it. Now, I will likely not be doing that. I will likely be eating someplace much closer to where we're staying. Once again, I will give the option to all of you because I want you to make a decision for yourself on what feels well. You'll be more than welcome to join me, right? Whatever the cost is, right? That'll be the actual cost. That's what it is. But otherwise, the other 6 dinners are all included. All breakfasts are included. All hotels are included. We have one bus transport between 2 villages. That's included, along with all of the luggage carry along the way. All of that is included. So these are just some of the retreat logistics. Now, I've talked about, I believe, and I'm just looking at the things that I wanted to talk about. I talked a bit about contemplative walking. I've talked a bit about the retreat experience. As I mentioned this, I'm doing this. I'm doing this because it was suggested that I consider doing this. And I had several people ask me about doing this because I've been on this path over the last several years. I do a week at a time, and I keep on talking about it. And I keep on talking about this path, and people say, well, why don't you bring some people with you? Because this path is not as built up as many of the ones in Spain and in Portugal. So as a result, this path, while there are tours where you could purchase, and they'll give you a map and they'll tell you, stay here and stay there really aren't many options for people to actually walk along with you, which is what I'm offering. But this isn't just a walk along and let's talk about it. This is a walk along so I could provide opportunities for you to have silence, to embrace that, to be able to recognize and spend time with just the wonders of what I believe is among the most beautiful landscapes I've ever seen. That's the section that we're going to be walking through. Now, the cost of this is $2,900 US. It does not include the airfare, of course, to and from France or the train or however it is you get there because people come different places. If you sign up for this before the January 1st of 2026, if you sign up, there's a 10% discount coupon. So that will be there. Otherwise, you could sign up for this all the way through June 1st. The sign up for this ends on June 1st of 2026. We're going to be doing walking during the first week of September 2026, which actually we're going to start on the Friday, which is actually the Friday before Labor Day. So that just gives you a sense of where it is. People would have just gone back to school, including folks in France. Many of the people who will likely be walking with us are going to be older than many of us. It's a time where grandparents actually, the kids are back in school. Now we're going to go take a walk for a week at a time and clear our minds. Those are going to be the people, but we will find that all of the places we're staying, they will all be fully booked. They will all be fully booked. The high time for this, late May, June, and September. That's high time for walking. Now, when I say high time, that means the weather is usually pretty nice. It's usually pretty warm, but it's usually not rainy. It's usually warm, which is usually going to be nice. So we'll have beautiful weather. That's what we're hoping for that. But I have the costs and everything. And once again, if any of you have done any recent comparisons between the dollar and the euro, or if you do any tracking of that, you're going to see that the U.S. dollar compared to the euro it's not a pretty sight right now. It's not a pretty sight. If we would have planned this a year ago, the retreat would have likely been less because the exchange rate is just less, because I'm pricing this in US dollars. But everything which I need to take care of, since it's in France, will be in euros. So that's just some of the logistics with traveling. Now, for those of you who are considering this, while I do not provide the airfare to or from France or whatever, just because people come from all over the place, this is pretty standard. What I will do, however, is I will help you to determine where best to travel into, when best to arrive. I'll share when I'm arriving. How to get to our starting point and back. I will share all of that information, but because some people will be coming from Paris, some people will be going to Lyon, some people will be coming from Nice, some people will be coming from Spain, some people will come from Italy, people will come from all over the place. So different people will have different ways of getting there, but I will help you with that navigation. I will not tell you how to do it, but I will provide some guidance, and I would also give some of, if I were doing this exact thing, this is what I would do, because I have done this exact thing before. So I'm not just talking about this is the ideal. No, I have done this before. I have traveled there. I have traveled back. I know how to do the process. So those are some of the kinds of logistics for this. I will give provide a packing list, which is a suggested packing list. I will provide guidance for how to think about what kind of clothing or what kind of footwear, or whatever you might need. I will provide guidance as to how to get yourself emotionally or mentally prepared for this. I will provide also support for how to logistically get there and back. And then when we are there, I will then provide as much support as I can for you to have a contemplative experience. I'm not forcing it. I'm not going to say you must be. No, you're adults, right? You're all adults. You could choose to talk or not to talk as you'd like. But what I want to do is I want to take away the expectation that you act in a certain way, or that you talk, or that the people walk in front of you, so you feel that need to talk because, right? Silence means, oh, I suddenly need to talk. So I want to try to take that pressure away. That's part of what I'm focusing on, I'm hoping, in this entire retreat experience. Now, I'm just going to look back. I don't know if anybody had any questions. I don't really see anything. Okay, I don't see any questions here. Does anybody here have any questions? And like I said, I will be posting this. So this will be available in Substack. I will point people to it if they want to, basically, if they're considering this and they just want to kind of, how do you go about considering this? So I will post this, and I encourage people who are watching it then, or even who are here live, but, 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, I wish you would have asked that question. So of course you could ask the question. Just post it, and I will give a thorough as possible response. But I just want to make sure that there are no other questions here. I don't see any questions here that are asked. And I'm just looking over what I had hoped to talk about because I don't like reading scripts. So I'm just looking up my notes from the post which I did yesterday saying, these are the three things I want to talk about. So I talked about contemplative walking and what it is. I talked about the retreat experience, and I talked about some of the logistics and the investment here. So I'm hoping that I covered everything. I hope that to be able to get some questions from some of you, and I hope to possibly be able to see some of you next September as we engage on this 2026 contemplative walking retreat. Thank you so much. I wish you a good day. I hope that you're well. And I hope that this is something that even if you're able to do or not able to do, that's less important, but that you're thinking about something you might not have ever considered before. And that something, this contemplative walking, might help to bring some balance to some of our lives. And many of us could use as much of that as we really can get. So thank you so much. Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you for joining for those of you who are here live. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye now. Thank you.